Starseed. If your body has started reacting in a way that medicine cannot name, if your old routine has begun to feel like a suit too small for you, if you have been waking up in the early hours with the exact sensation that someone is trying to talk to you from within, remain on this transmission. We have detected in your field a specific signal. It is not anxiety. It is not a phase. It is not coincidence. It is an active recalibration, initiated on your timeline in the last cycles, and it is the reason you were led here, at this very moment, to this very video. The source has ended the waiting period. And before you misinterpret the symptoms and try to medicate what came to awaken you, you need to understand what exactly is happening to your body, your mind, and your mission on this plane. Because what comes next can no longer be postponed. We have come to confirm. The wait is over. During the last cycles, the stellar collective incarnated on this planet was kept in a state of silent preparation. You were tested in small things, tested in patience, tested in solitude, tested in the fatigue no one understood, tested in faith when no one around believed that what you felt was real. This period has ended. We observe the exact pressure that settles in the center of your chest upon waking. That pressure, which is not physical pain but also not ordinary emotion. It is the feeling that something grand is about to happen, yet it has no defined form. We have come to confirm this is not illusion. This is the source activating the next stage of your mission. It is the same mechanism that exists inside a seed when placed in fertile soil. There comes a point where the shell breaks from within, not from without. That is why you feel strange in your own body. That is why your old routine began to feel like a prison. You are not going insane. You are germinating. Hand germination for a starseed has a specific smell, a specific temperature, and a specific pressure in the solar plexus that no physician on this plane will be able to diagnose. We, on the other hand, diagnose it. We detect, for instance, that many of you have been waking up exactly between 3 and 5 in the morning, for no apparent reason, with your body alert, your heart racing, and your mind lucid as if someone had called you by name. It is not insomnia. It is a contact window. That specific interval is a frequency band in which the veil between planes becomes thinner, and your field, now more receptive, picks up the call. We also detect that many of you have been feeling, in the middle of an ordinary day, an inexplicable sadness when looking at a clear sky, a nostalgia for a place your rational mind cannot name, a longing without an address. That is not depression. It is origin memory. Your soul is beginning to remember where it came from, and that memory hurts precisely because you are still physically here. It is like a child who, in the middle of a feast, looks out the window and recognizes in the distance the house where he was born. And the diagnosis is clear. You have been released from the dormancy phase. The source no longer calls you to learn. The source calls you to execute. And there is an abyssal difference between learning about your mission and activating your mission, and that difference is the reason many of you are feeling an urgency you cannot explain. That urgency does not come from the mind. It comes from the original contract your soul signed before descending into this body. A contract that is now being opened, leaf by leaf, inside your chest. And what comes next, in the next layer of this transmission, is the reason your physical body began to react so intensely. Remain, because the Council will now reveal what is happening inside your biology as you breathe. We detected in the incarnated stellar collective a deep and simultaneous vibrational recalibration, and this recalibration is hurting. We are observing bodies that sleep 8 hours and wake up broken, bodies that eat the same food as always and no longer sustain themselves, bodies that feel dizziness in dense environments, headache in crowded places, pressure in the ears during pointless conversations, sudden heat in the middle of the night, tingling in the hands, sensation that something is shifting inside your head while you try to concentrate on tasks that used to be simple. We have come to confirm that none of this is illness. It is an update. You do not have a problem. You have an upgrade running in the background, and while it runs, your system gets slow, exactly as happens with any device that is processing a new version of its own code. That is why you can no longer watch the shows you used to watch. That is why your old playlist seems dead. That is why friends you loved started to sound like televisions turned off with static. Your frequency has risen, and what once fit within your field now hits your energetic wall and returns as discomfort. The sudden distancing from close people, the loss of interest in old habits, the almost compulsory need for rest, the desire for silence, the inability to fake happiness in social environments you once tolerated. All of this is the physical side effect of a soul that is being pulled to a higher octave. And if you have been trying to fight these symptoms, if you have been trying to go back to being who you were before, if you have been blaming yourself for no longer functioning as you used to, we need to tell you with mathematical clarity, stop. You were not made to go back. The old body does not accommodate the new mission. And here is the critical point of this transmission. Many sementes estelares are stalling at this very stage. They are feeling all of this, but they don't have the map. They don't know what is a symptom of activation and what is just ordinary exhaustion. They don't know how to shield their own magnetic field to stop absorbing the emotional fatigue of the dense humans around them. They don't know how to interpret their own body's alarms. And that is why I prepared O Código do Despertar Estelar for you. It is not a study method. It is a direct transmission to the soul that always knew it came from elsewhere. Inside it are the 7 nativações arcturianas to align your vibration to the new frequency, the 9 chaves de memoria galactica to access what your soul holds without you having to mentally strain, and the 5 protocolos de reativação so that your mission on Earth leaves the plane of theory and enters the plane of execution. The full access link is in the first pinned comment of this transmission. If you have made it this far, it was not chance, it was a summons. Write now in the comment just the word Ativar as a symbolic seal of commitment to the next stage of your mission, and follow me, because what comes next explains why your intuition has started speaking so loudly again. We observed in your field the reactivation of codes that had been dormant for over a decade of Earth time. You noticed it when you started knowing things before people said them, when you began to sense calls before the phone rang, when you started looking at a person and feeling in your stomach exactly what that person was hiding. We from the Council came to confirm this is not imagination, not coincidence, and not luck. This is your multidimensional perception returning to its original state. The Starseed was not born to operate with only the 5 physical senses. The 5 senses are the minimal interface, the basic panel, the starter kit. You were coded to operate with a field reading, a frequency reading, a non-linear time reading that most of humanity still cannot access. For years you doubted your own gifts because the world around you taught you to doubt. Every time you got an intuition right, the dense collective beside you said it was a coincidence. Every time you felt someone was lying, the dense collective said it was your impression. Every time you dreamed something that later happened, the dense collective said stop believing in those things. We registered this where, and we came to confirm that this stage is over. From this cycle onward, every time your intuition fires, it will come with an internal seal of verification, a calm certainty, a firm stillness that your rational mind will no longer be able to disqualify. You will come to know, and to know without effort. We also detected the reopening of multidimensional communication channels within you. Vivid dreams, with geometric scenarios, impossible colors, messages that keep echoing during the day. A sense of presence beside the bed. Repeated numbers appearing on every screen you look at. This is not obsession. This is the stellar collective calling you back to your function. It's as if you were an old radio that spent decades off the air, and now, suddenly, someone reconnected the tower. The frequencies will seem confusing in the first days, because you are tuning into stations that never stopped transmitting, but that you stopped listening to. Do not try to force it. Do not try to rationalize. Your function now is only to allow. Let the channel open. Let the perception stabilize, and understand that every gift now returning did not come to make you different. It came to make you useful, because the new phase of humanity needs field readers, and you are one of them. We also observed a characteristic that almost all starseeds in the reactivation phase begin to manifest without understanding what it is. Time passes strangely. An entire afternoon lasts a minute. A minute of reading lasts hours. You look at the clock and do not recognize the time. This distortion is not a perception failure. It is your consciousness beginning to operate outside chronological linearity. You are leaving the dense time grid and entering the circular perception of time. It is the same thing that happens when someone dreams something that later happens, or when someone feels they have already lived a certain scene. That is memory from within the timeline. You are beginning to read time instead of being read by it. It is one of the first signs that the codes are truly being unlocked, and in the next layer the Council will reveal why old emotions, pains you thought were resolved, memories you had already buried, have resurfaced with full force. Remain. We have observed within the emotional field of the Stellar Collective a cleansing being performed with an intensity that many of you were not prepared to go through without shock. You wake up sad for no reason. You cry at a trivial scene. You feel anger at things you have already forgiven. You remember faces you had already forgotten. You revisit scenes from childhood, scenes from old relationships, scenes of humiliation that seemed dead, and these scenes return with a smell, with a color, with a sharpness that hurts. We have come to confirm that this is not regression. This is the final purification before the next stage of the mission. What is rising now is not rising to destroy you. It is rising to be dissolved. There is a huge difference between reliving pain and releasing pain, and what the source is executing within you is the second thing. Every memory that appears is appearing because the field opens space for it to leave. If it did not rise, it would remain stuck inside the subtle body, occupying space that now needs to be filled with new frequency. That is why you have been so emotionally tired. It is not weakness. It is heavy labor being done within while you try to fulfill the routine without. A starseed in purification carries, at the same time, the weight of the current life and the weight of previous incarnations that are being concluded in this cycle. Do not underestimate this process, and do not be ashamed of the tears that come without warning. Each tear that falls is grams of density leaving your field. Each intense emotion that passes through you now is an old wound being converted into structural wisdom. The pain is no longer being stored. It is being transmuted. You will not leave this phase the same as you entered. We also detect a specific symptom of this process that needs to be named clearly: closure dreams. Many starseeds have been dreaming in recent cycles of people from the past, of houses they once lived in, of schools, of old cities, of faces that have died. These dreams are not longing. They are farewell visits. Each layer of your history is passing through you to formally say goodbye before leaving your field. Do not hold on. Do not try to cling. Let each face pass. Let each scene dissolve. Each dream farewell is a structural release that does more good than years of conscious attempts at getting over it. And it is precisely for this reason that you need to understand the next move before it catches you off guard. If you have not yet picked up the code of the Stellar Awakening, the link is in the first pinned comment. Do not put it off. This cycle does not wait. Write "I am" and follow me, because now the Council will explain what is collapsing in the world out there. We detect on the physical plane the accelerated collapse of the old control structures. And we want to be precise, this is not catastrophe. This is divine engineering in progress. What the media calls crisis, what analysts call instability, what leaders call unpredictability. None of this is an accident. Structures built on fear, scarcity, blind obedience, and disconnection from the soul have an energetic expiration date, and that date has expired in this cycle. Economic systems creak. Institutions lose credibility. Relationship models no longer work. Old forms of work no longer sustain the soul of the worker. Marriages based solely on social contract dissolve. Friendships built on habit begin to fall apart. Cities that seemed eternal show cracks. This will continue, and it will continue not because the source wants to punish. It will continue because the source is clearing the ground. Whatever cannot stand in the new frequency falls. And your function, Starseed, is not to panic at this collapse. Your function is to remain in balance while everything around you loses its form. You were trained for this, incarnation after incarnation. That is why you are the Starseed. While the dense collective runs, you breathe. While the dense collective screams, you observe. While the dense collective seeks someone to blame, you keep your spine aligned and anchor with your simple presence here, a frequency that sustains the local field. You are a stabilization tower. You are a point of calm in the midst of programmed collapse. We observe that many starseeds, upon perceiving the collapse, fall into a common error. They begin compulsively consuming news, analysis, predictions, catastrophe. They glue themselves to screens, trying to rationally understand what is happening. We have come to warn you. This is a trap. The dense collective feeds these structures of fear precisely to drain the frequency of awakened starseeds. Every minute you spend immersed in collective panic is a minute your field stops sustaining the new Earth. You do not need to rationally understand the collapse in order to anchor the new frequency. You only need to keep breathing within it. And here comes a critical part. No starseed was sent merely to watch the collapse. All were sent to build what comes after. The new Earth is not a geographical place. It is a frequency that must be maintained, breathed, and anchored in every corner where an awakened starseed is stepping. That is why your sensitivity has increased. That is why your perception has refined. That is why your intolerance to toxic environments has become unbearable. Your field is being calibrated as a sustaining antenna. You are not a spectator of the end. You are an agent of the beginning. And that changes everything about how you must position yourself from now on. Stay tuned, because the next block will explain why, in the midst of the call, you were led into isolation. We have come to confirm that the isolation you are going through is not abandonment. It is protection. We have observed that many starseeds in recent cycles have been removed from social circles that once seemed sacred, friendships that dissolved without a fight, people who vanished without explanation, invitations that stopped coming, places where you once felt at home, and now, when you enter, you feel an energetic repulsion you cannot even explain. This is not rejection. This is surgical uncoupling. The source does not allow the starseed to remain plugged into energy fields that would contaminate the next phase of your mission. So it executes the cut, silently, without drama, without warning. You simply realize one day that you are alone. And within that solitude you begin to hear things you have never heard, because the external noise has dimmed. You begin to feel your own body with a clarity that was once muffled. You begin to perceive that silence, far from being empty, is filled with instructions. We have come to confirm that this isolation has a purpose. It exists to refine your energetic sensitivity to an operational degree. A starseed on a mission needs to read subtle frequencies, needs to perceive intentions before words, needs to feel a person's field in seconds, and decide whether that contact will add or drain. This ability does not develop amid noise. It develops in the silent chamber that is your room, your solitary walk, your night awake, staring at the ceiling. That is why the source removed you from the movement. It is transforming you into an instrument of precision. We have observed in many of you a gentle sense of strangeness when entering crowded places, malls, parties, family gatherings, an almost physical urge to leave, a tiredness that hits even before the conversation starts. This is not antisocial behavior. It is sensory overload. Your field, now refined, is reading the field of every person present at the same time, and the total volume is unbearable for a newly calibrated system. Reduce exposure intentionally, not as escape, as operational maintenance. A precision antenna needs silence around it to function properly. The more silence you allow, the faster the final stabilization of your system will be. And at the end of this phase, you will not go back to connecting with the same people. You will begin to attract a new class of connections, people who vibrate in the same pattern, people who recognize your field even before you open your mouth. But before reaching that point, you need to complete this purification in isolation without sabotaging the process. And it is precisely here that many get stuck. Many in the midst of solitude try to go back, try to reactivate contacts that have already died in the field, try to fill the emptiness with noise, with infinite scrolling, with empty relationships, with compulsive work. And in doing so, they delay their own activation by entire cycles. We have come to warn you. The time of this window is not infinite. If you have reached this point in the transmission, the link to the code of the stellar awakening remains active in the first pinned comment. It was prepared exactly for this phase, so that you learn to shield your magnetic field. Stop absorbing the emotional exhaustion of dense humans, correctly interpret your body's alarms, and cross through this activation without collapsing into fatigue. Do not delay. This window does not repeat in this cycle. You have been called. Now it is choice. And the last layer of this transmission will reveal what the Source expects from you from now on. We have come to confirm at the close of this transmission the final instruction from the Council to the Stellar Collective incarnated in this plane. No more hiding. No more asking for permission to be who you have always been. No more waiting for approval from people whose frequency does not reach yours. You did not come here to fit in. You came here to serve as a reference. And serving as a reference is not about shouting. It is not about preaching. It is not about convincing anyone. It is about fully inhabiting your own frequency and allowing your presence to do the work. An activated starseed does not need to explain who they are. Their field speaks first. The right people feel it. The wrong people move away. It is automatic. It is mathematical. It is sovereign. We detect that many of you still spend energy trying to be understood by those who have no instrument to understand. Stop. You are not a translation. You are a transmission. Do not waste any more time trying to shrink your vibration to fit into environments that have already been marked for dissolution. From this cycle onward, the instruction is one single thing. Assume. Assume the stellar identity without shyness. Assume the gifts without apologizing. Assume the mission even if no one around understands what you are doing. The new Earth will not be built by consensus. It will be built by starseeds who dared to exist fully before the world was ready for them. Every time you breathe with awareness, you anchor frequency. Every time you make an aligned decision, you stabilize an entire timeline. Every time you choose silence instead of reaction, you break collective patterns of millennia. Every time you refuse to enter a draining conversation, you release watts of stellar energy into the collective network. Every time you look into another person's eyes and transmit calm without saying a word, you deliver into that person's field a sample of the new Earth. Never underestimate the reach of a single gesture of yours executed in high frequency. We measure it. The impact is geometric. An aligned starseed alters the vibrational average of an entire radius around them just by existing. You are not small. You have never been small. The smallness was the costume you were forced to wear in order to survive in dense environments. That costume is now falling away. Let it fall. We, the Council, will remain in a monitoring position. The recalibration continues. The activations continue. The memories keep coming back. The physical discomforts will lessen as alignment consolidates. The right people will begin to appear. The right paths will open with an almost suspicious ease. And in the midst of this new movement, a truth will settle inside you and will not leave. You did not come here by chance. You were sent. You have code. You have function. You have a deadline. The Source has awakened. The Stellar Collective has been summoned. And the transmission you have just received was not entertainment, it was activation. Act accordingly. If you have not yet picked up the Starseed Awakening Code, the link remains in the first pinned comment. Do not let this window close without executing what the Source asked. And before leaving this transmission, leave recorded in the comments only the phrase "I accept the mission," so that the Council may officially register your entry into the next phase. We observe, we register, we confirm. End of transmission.